Eastern Europe is a part of the world where I own property, I spend part of my life, I hire people for our team, and it's an interesting part of the world that is seeing increased personal freedom and increased opportunities right now. So today I'm going to share with you some of the great reasons you might want to consider Eastern Europe. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. Now let's define what I mean by Eastern Europe. Certainly there are people who are in what you might call Central Europe who don't like being called Eastern Europe. What I'm talking about is basically the non-EU Europe. And I don't mean, some microstate. I mean countries that are east of the European Union. So that could be everything from Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine to the Balkans. You could even include the Baltics in here, but for these purposes, I'm going to talk about countries that are outside of the European Union. Now, this is a part of the world that certainly isn't for everyone. I'm going to talk about the benefits, and with that, perhaps try and specify maybe who's not as good of a fit. But, I've spent time certainly in many parts of the world, and, while I have frustrations and I see the pros and cons with any particular area, this is one part of the world that I keep coming back to. And I think that what you do is you get a lot of the benefits of Europe. Certainly there's some places in Western Europe that have tax incentives, that do have certain freedoms. But I think that you get a lot more of that in Eastern Europe. You get a lot more flexibility. So let's just start with the list, because the more I see about this part of the world, the more I see that despite the downsides that every part of the world has, it's very workable for me and for the sensibilities that I have. The first thing that I like is flexibility. Let's just take, you come to Belgrade, you land at the airport. Not a lot of rigmarole, not a lot of queuing up in different lines, not a lot of go here, go there. You go to the passport line, it's often almost nobody in it. Certainly if you're getting off the plane first, you're not like coming in behind, 19 other flights in many of these airports. You go to the passport line, you get in there pretty quickly. They look, they stamp, on you go. There's not a lot of questions. There's not a lot of hassle. There's not a lot of waiting around. It's just, you're here, it's efficient, you go. In fact, if I don't have a checked bag, will sometimes tell someone 5 minutes after the plane parks at the gate, be ready outside with the car at Belgrade Airport. It's simply that easy. You go in, you go out. It's very efficient. Number two is greater personal freedom. We've often talked about the concept of soft freedom. And so I'm not necessarily saying, go and compare constitutions. I'm talking about what actually happens on the streets, in the real world, day in and day out. If you want to be left alone, there's a lot of places around the world where you can go. Certainly, places like the United States are probably some of the worst places for this. I could also find some emerging countries. I found Thailand to be in many ways to lack a lot of personal freedoms. That's my personal opinion. So while you may not be left alone if you go to the salon and you gossip with your stylist, and then I hear the next day they say, oh, they were talking about Jovana and this person and that person, and do you know what she's up to? Certainly in a lot of these places, and I think this could probably apply to a lot of Western European cities or anywhere where you have smaller cities, 1 million people, for example. There might be some gossip. I don't think you have to get your way, you don't have to get into that if you're not going to most places, if you're not participating in that. But other than that, I think you can pretty much be left alone. You don't see people being harassed. You don't see some of the stupidity that you see, some of the nonsense that you see in a lot of other places. And so just a lot of greater soft personal freedom. You may not see it written, but when you come, you will feel it. And I've seen so many people, come and visit me, for example, from the EU. They come to Armenia, they come to Belgrade, they come to Montenegro, and they're like, yeah, it just feels like, like you can just kind of do what you want. You're more flexible. Number three, which could be a pro or a con. I've kind of grown to like it. Maybe a little bit too much so, but people get to the point. And so for someone who's running a business and you just want to what's the bottom line? You can get to it. One of the reasons I think why we've had success in hiring in this part of the world is for that very reason. I mean, you go to parts of Latin America, you go to parts of Asia, and you ask someone a question, it's like 10 minutes, and what's the bottom line? Here, certainly, perhaps you need to push the vision more. And this is not a video about hiring, but you need to push the vision a little bit more than you might in some Western countries. But you're going to have, in terms of a team, people who are more direct, in just everyday life, you can have people who are more direct. And if you're looking for, sympathy, I remember years ago, I went to a restaurant and I had ended a relationship. And I ended it at the restaurant. And the next time I went back to the restaurant, the guy's like, what happened to so-and-so? It didn't work out. He's just like, that's a life. He walks off. It's almost very nice just to have people don't want to get too much into your business. They're not going to sit there and, it's just, to the point. And so number 4, with that, I found, especially in countries in the Caucasus, for example, Georgia stands out. You will have people who are real, and you can develop more true friendships. Probably some of my most true, long-standing, in the context of my nomad capitalist life, friendships are in Georgia. I don't even spend that much time in Georgia anymore. But I always enjoy going back because I have friends who are always there if you need help, and I would help them, and I do stuff for them, and we just maintain our relationship. And compared to, for example, where I'm from in the United States, where you feel like things are often very transient, I feel like friendships in this part of the world are often much more long-standing. Now, certainly that comes with some of the territory. You'll see people who are local who, they're 60 years old and they're still friends with their elementary school friends in some cases because, people just didn't move. And so if you are the person who moves, then maybe you don't have all of that. But I found that even as an adult, they say when you're in your 30s and in your 40s, very difficult to make new friends. And I imagine that's one of the reasons why people are somewhat concerned about leaving their country at a certain age because they're like, how am I going to make any friends? And yet I found that, you move to California, most people that you're going to meet, people say they're not going to be your real friends. I met people when I spent 6 months in California. I did some business there. I mean, people would flake on me left and right. I really haven't had that happen in this part of the world, probably more than anywhere else. Number 5, if your concern is how to communicate with people, I do think it's one of the better up-and-coming regions in the world for English speaking. In fact, we talked about how one of the most highly rated countries on countries that where non-native speakers speak English was Serbia. Okay, the Netherlands and a few other European countries scored more highly, but it was one of the top-ranked countries, and so Serbia in particular stands out. Other countries in the Balkans stand out. I think in a country like in Georgia, like in Armenia, you'll have more difficulty. In Russia, you'll have a lot of trouble. I think you'll have a lot of trouble finding people who speak English in most areas. But Ukraine, Romania, we said we weren't including the EU, Serbia. I mean, these are countries where you'll really, even parts of Albania, be able to really speak English. And Serbia in particular, I think, was one of the most highly ranked ones. But compared to, let's say, Latin America, compared to many parts of Asia, the English that is spoken is much better. And so I'm not opposed to learning another language. And if you want to live in Latin America, certainly learning Spanish is going to be a lot more valuable than learning Albanian. But if you want to get by in English, if you want to do business, if you want to have friends, I think you can do that more readily than a lot of other places, including maybe just as easily as some places in the European Union where you're going to pay a lot more, have a lot higher taxes, a lot more rules, a lot more silliness. Number 6 is the affordable cost of living. Now, I don't necessarily choose places based on the affordable cost of living, but I will say I always do enjoy going to one of the best restaurants, taking someone out, you have a bunch of glasses of wine, you get the appetizer, you get the dessert, you have a beautiful full meal, and the bill comes and it's $78. I mean, there's just something about that. And I think what you do have is one of the challenges in some of these countries, you don't have as many great places. I mean, when I go to places in Western Europe, you could swing a dead cat and hit 6 really sexy looking restaurants. They could be fast casual, they could be fine dining, they could be somewhere in between. You are seeing more of that coming in places like Georgia. You have some very nice places in Armenia. Russia, I think, it's just, you have a ton of beautiful restaurants. Serbia, it's kind of up and coming. Montenegro is kind of up and coming in that regard. But it's affordable, and I think you can enjoy. And again, what's also nice is it's more relaxed on the concept of friendship. I mean, one thing, coming from the U.S., you always feel like you're in a hurry. Get out, we got to turn the table. When you go to eat, even to a cafe, I was just at a cafe recently, you just sit there for a while, you linger, and that's so nice about the friendships in many parts of the world. You can find this part in many parts of the world. But getting out of a legacy brand country where people just like, hey, listen, let's just hang out and we'll talk for as long as we're talking. I found that in Eastern Europe. I found that in other countries as well, but it's a very nice thing to do, and of course you can live affordably. The other thing that stands out is it's easier to get residence in Eastern Europe. So even if don't have a lot of money, you go to Montenegro, you go to Albania, you go to Serbia, you can buy a property, pretty much any property in some cases, and you can get residence. Now, in some cases, they're going to want to come and see, are you living in the property? So you're going to need to live in that property for at least a while to get the residence. So there's that. In Armenia, straightforward residence if you make it an investment. Georgia is a bit more expensive, but if you're buying a decent property to live in, let's say a Tbilisi, it's relatively easy to meet the $100,000 threshold. But in some of the other countries, there's practically no minimum on buying a property. Now, citizenship in these countries may be more difficult. There are maybe a couple exceptions to that, but in general, citizenship is more difficult, and probably in some of the countries, they're going to kind of work against you to get citizenship. They almost don't want you to get it. Whereas in, let's say, Western Europe, it's a more streamlined process. Okay, did you meet the rules? You're in. This is one area where they're going to be like, well, we didn't feel like renewing your residence this year, and you got to go back and start again, and then your citizenship track is off. So for citizenship, for the average person, maybe not as good, but for residents, very affordable to get into. And on top of that, you have in some of these countries some very good tax policies. We've talked about Georgia. If you have a salary, you can bring that and you can pay as little as 1%. Your foreign businesses may not be taxed. Armenia has incentives. Serbia and Montenegro have certain flexible policies for businesses. So residents and potentially taxes, not zero tax in most cases, but you can get it on pretty good terms. Affordable housing, ability to buy land. Certainly prices in Belgrade have gone up. Armenia is not as cheap as you would think it is because of the diaspora. But you've got a lot of good opportunities. When you compare it to other places in the world, it's pretty cheap. Where else can you go in, let's say, a Tbilisi and buy a halfway decent property for not a lot more than $1,000 a meter, or about $100 per square foot? You can do that in this part of the world. And when you look at the prices, Ukraine is Kiev, $1,500 a meter in many areas. You can get a lot of good properties. And if you ever wanted to rent that property out, you're probably going to get a higher yield, and you're going to get more favorable terms for things like Airbnb or more landlord-friendly rules than you would. In some of these countries, you can buy land. So if I'm comparing Eastern Europe to, let's say, Asia, residence is cheaper, ability to buy property is cheaper, or is easier, and the property itself is cheaper. And the last reason is for someone like myself who is very international. Let's say you want to live in Western Europe part of the year. And maybe let's say you like to go to Asia as well. You have business in Asia. Eastern Europe certainly is very well connected. And so you're connected to a region that has so many different places to go, whether it's tax-friendly countries, whether it's, just for whatever reason, you've got so many different places, right? You go to Latin America, there might be 2 or 3 countries that you enjoy. Whereas in Europe, there might be a lot more potential places, and you are, smack dab in the middle. One place that you could consider Eastern Europe is Istanbul. They have a citizenship program. It's certainly not a tax haven, but it does offer kind of a big hub that if you're living in some of these smaller towns, you could go and you could shop and get medical care and do all that stuff to a very high standard. Certainly flying through Istanbul is a very great, connection. And so, if you're looking to be closer to Asia, then Eastern Europe gives you that European vibe without the, the longer flights. You have Dubai, you have Western Europe, you have Asia, kind of all at your fingertips. And so it's very, conveniently located in that opinion for people who are, international. So those are 9 things I like about it. I don't think it's certainly, as I said, for everyone. I don't think it's perfect. I would be curious to hear the comments of those of you who have spent time living in various Eastern European countries, what your thoughts are, or if you haven't, is this a place that you're open to? Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalists personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.